piace i capelli bianchi i suoi, perché sono belli bianchi.
Sì, sono belli bianchi, non sono belli gialli.
Perché di solito ci sono quelli che già bianchi.
Lui
che belli bianchi.
Lui li ha bianchi e poi sicuramente non c'è mai fatto niente ai capelli, per cui non possono avere, che ne so, residui di colore, sai quelle robe che...
Sebbene io mi snervo perché li lavo quasi tutti i giorni.
Vabbè,
Ma che
ci sono anche Gigi le
però ti stanno bene anche perché io sono più negozio così
anche Gigi si lava tutti i giorni.
sì, beh sì.
Gigi.
Prima d'abbondanza.
Perché?
Tutti i giorni che hai i capelli.
No, ogni 3 giorni. Adesso non si riesce a capire se ricrescono.
Però finché fare cure no, forse. No.
6 devo fare di quelle.
Il mio
Mia.
11.
Cosa?
Perfetto.
Quando è cosa che hai detto che non ho capito? L'11 che cosa?
Ti ho fatto 11 carte. Esattamente, hai visto?
State ottime d'attacco.
Io metto giù
per quello e quindi
ho messo giù qualcosa.
4 carte.
Guarda, neanche farlo apposta. Guarda quante ne mette giù.
Guarda che belle!
So welcome to our third and last plenary for today. I'm here to introduce our guest speaker, Serena Mazzini. Serena is a social media expert and strategist with several years of freelancing experience in many large agencies. She's also a contributor to Domani Editoriale, and she has worked as a regular guest on Le Mattine, this radio program on Radio Capitale. She also co-authored the podcast Il Sottosopra in collaboration with Selvaggia Lucarelli. And she's also teaching in the bachelor's degree program in graphic design at NABA. Serena is also very active on Instagram, and she uses a social media platform to analyze the dark side of social networks. And before leaving you the floor, I want to start with something that you say on your personal webpage that I found really inspiring. So there's a point where you say, I'm quoting, if it is true that new generation will never know how the world worked before the World Wide Web, what is missing, however, is a digital education explaining which are the opportunities, but also the dangers of the internet. So I think that today we all want you to help us to unveil such pervasive phenomenon TikTok, where we see very young girls open recovery profiles and talk about their experience living with and struggling with an eating disorder. So I think that I will leave you the floor, but before I would just read your title, the title of your presentation, Serena Mazzini will speak on anorexia nervosa in the TikTok era, when the disease becomes a reality show. So Serena, the floor is yours.
Thank you for having me. And speaking about dangers, we can speak about a TikTok phenomena, and I think that there is a kind of worrying phenomenon that is gaining ground, especially on TikTok, when we can see that very young girls open recovery profiles, for example, dedicated to their home part in the battle against the eating disorder, transforming the diseases into a sort of reality show in which they tend to romanticize their own pathology. So you can see a lot of videos of them trying to use the TikTok trends, such as singing on a Maneskin song, but speaking about their diseases. So although the platforms bans content promoting dangerous weight loss, hashtags such as skinny check or DCA can still be found. And TikTok officially does not allow content promoting on glorifying eating disorder and enforce such a ban through human and AI moderation. The platform started some years ago, imposed additional restriction on weight loss advertising after facing criticism for promoting dangerous diets, and in March launched a program to connect users who search hashtag related to eating disorder with a helpline. So if you are looking for content about anorexia, they will remind you to a number and with some content about how to ask for help. At the same time, we can still find problematic hashtags. So many users appear to intentionally misspell popular hashtag promoting unhealthy eating offer. They are banned to get around the new regulation. So for example, after the platform banned the hashtag teenspo, that's short for teen inspiration, users began to using teenspo and teenspo, and other similarly innocuous hashtags such as calorie deficit snack or weight loss progress usually you can find a lot of problematic content encouraging users to restrict and count calories. A simple hashtag such as skinny has 1.7 billion views and leads to a number of weight loss videos. So you can find a lot of what we eat in a day after losing our weight, and they are dancing, telling you that you have just to eat like one apple and maybe drink some orange juice. So if you take a look at the For You page, a feed of videos from account users may not even follow, that is recommended by an algorithm based on viewing history, make it possible for problematic content to start trending with little friction. So for example, I try to search for diet or for what I eat in a day, and it was pretty interesting because in less than 24 hours, I was my feed was totally based on videos telling me how to start a diet, how to start a restricted diet, and eventually overline healthy hashtags such as I will be skinny and Team Expo, as we saw. Also, TikTok use of augmented reality camera filters can also contribute to negative body image, especially for young girls. Furthermore, among the most viewed and shared videos on the platform, there are those that show the before and after of a great weight loss. So people with not compliant bodies show themselves sad, in tears, then sharing completely improved life once they lost weight. So basically you are submerged by video that with girls that, oh my God, I'm fat, so I'm so sad because I'm fat, and now I'm happy because I'm thin, skinny. So this focus on appearance and thinness started a new trend, anorexia nervosa, shown like a reality show. hospitalization to feeding or the use of drugs become potentially viral content, which is subject to procedural, so trendy music and dances, the use of specific hashtag, live broadcast video while eating or crying, often using filters to make faces that are already visibly worn and sick even more teen. So they are all pieces to win the approval of an even wider audience who watches them fall deeper and deeper day after day. It is precisely this visibility that embed them in a character that make them increasingly recognizable. So like a product on a supermarket shelf. So there is, for example, Leila with her hat and pigtails, Egeo Nyakuni with her colorful dresses, and Maya with her nails long and well groomed and the tube covering her face. But there is a interesting taking a look at their bio, because Maya, for example, that is one of the latest arrival on the platform, seems to have understood the power of this narration. So she wrote to 25,000 followers to highlight the performative perspective of disease sharing. So as we know, the link between the web and eating behavior disorder is certainly not new. Pro-anorexia or bulimia blogs, Telegram groups or blogs have been the starting point for many young people who were looking for support and tricks to indulge their elements through communities of sick people who encourage each other through direct comparison. Frequently, in fact, those who participate in this mutual aid group must submit to precise rules such as sharing their weight and what they are eating every day, what calorie deficit they manage to reach, and how vomiting is induced. So such a network for sure are speeded up and amplify this process, giving people suffering from eating disorder the opportunity to use them as a showcase in which to look at themselves, is confirming the alteration of the body perception they suffer from, feeding in with attention, liking comments, continuously reinforcing the idea that if they are sick, they can continue to be the center of the attention. So in a world where everything is a content, every illness become an excuse to show off. Sometimes content is guided by their followers, asking them to eat or to dance. And this video has pretty hard to watch because you can feel how hard it is for them to try to eat, but their follower continue to ask them to try eat something. So generally it's a pizza or maybe an hamburger or maybe some sweetie, but it's pretty hard because you can feel how hard it is for them, but they are continue trying to encourage their followers to talk with them so they can create other content. So the problem is that anorexia nervosa is an egosyntonic disorder. So what does it mean for them to share their journey through social media? That usually a person identifies with early illness and she derives secondary attitudes. So the secondary benefit is what causes them not to heal. And they are followed, and a lot of people create a fan page for them. And one day Leila seemed to be lost, and a lot of video came out about her and trying to find her around Milan. So they collected billions of views. So the problem is if I'm loved as a sick person who makes me try to heal, why I should recover from a disease that provide me so many secondary benefits as being famous. But why have platforms like Instagram and TikTok become the ideal space for this type of storytelling? Yeah, platforms are the realm of safe mediation and storytelling competition, and also the television of pain and the voyeurism supported by specific television programs have accustomed us to this type of narration as a starting point to seek success. And yeah, I don't have a time to speak about the history of platform and the history of neoliberalism, but basically the pervasiveness of the neoliberal model that has established itself since the 80s has led to a paradigm shift, which according to Foucault has had two consequences. The first is that neoliberalism involves a massive expansion of the economic scope. The second is the redefinition of the concept of work and worker, the latter that define a human capital. What does it mean that neoliberalism involves a massive expansion of the economic outreach? Returning to the studies of Gary Becker, Foucault underlined how everything for which human beings try to achieve their ends, from marriage to crime to expense for children, can be understood economically according to a particular calculation of the cost for benefit. And the redefinition, the concept of work and worker, redefined as human capital, and is a concept that can be sharing by looking at the work of Wendy Brown. And she thinks that where neoliberalism economized previously non-economic sphere and practice, then human being is both a member of a firm and a firm himself. So the main distinction between the neoliberal subject and the subject who precede him, therefore, is that the Homo economicus is concerned with increasing its market value in the ambition of its life. Why I'm telling you that, that could be a boring notion about philosophy, because the concept of human being as a firm competing with others has found its breakdown on social network, especially such platforms as Instagram and recently, as we saw, TikTok. How we have come this far? Because platforms such as Instagram offer a so-called social experience, because they are based on social engineering project. User experience is structured to create addiction to those mechanisms that SIVA has defined as social viscosity. They are based on principle of generating habits through social interaction guided by the algorithm, and everyone could be a micro-influencer. So people who have their own communication channel, which depends on number of followers and how many people they are managed to reach. So looking at the platform, we can see that starting from Instagram and obviously to TikTok, they offer a kind of social experience. So there is the possibility of getting likes and comments, of tagging yourself among friends, and to show one-on content even to strangers through the use of hashtag in a digital space that became increasingly vast as the surprises to the program. So Mark Zuckerberg knew immediately that the social features will make Instagram irresistible and monetizable. Why? Because he started his journey in creating Meta with a kind of social experiment, and he made during his study, and he created a kind of site in which you can compare two persons who were at the university at the time, and what he didn't expect was that in the few hours, over around 50 people would have clicked on the link and voted for 22,000 times. He took inspiration from another site that was a kind of a sort of Tinder ante litteram, and what is important, that a significant number of people willing to submit their images to a possible humiliation for the slight and sporadic reward of a signal of approval. In the case of Face Mash, The attraction was also given by the possibility of voting for people known in real life. So this point was central in the creation of Facebook, and for sure even more on TikTok, but above all in the definition of a user experience structure to create addiction. So like casinos, slot machine, Facebook and the other platform are designed to immerse users within the platform, to disorient them just enough to make them to lose the perception of time and depth of this immersion, gratifying them just enough to make them to come back often. We can also talk about operant conditioning. So Skinner spoke about that, and I will not take time to explain that, but Facebook as well as Instagram as well as TikTok are based on principles of generating habits through social interaction guided by algorithms. So their power lies precisely in the promise of offering a quantified and repeatable social statement. And this is why we saw a rise of micro celebrity and influencers. So how we can define them: a type of micro celebrity who has accumulated a large number of social media followers and frequently use this social capital to access to financial resources. So they are basically people who have their own communication channel, which depends on the number of followers and how many people they manage to reach. So how many unique users have viewed a certain content and engage with it, and the result depends not only on the size of the community, but also on how the algorithm decide to show that content. Why is this important? Because if you take a look at the narration of the Anorexia Nervosa on TikTok, you will see that there is a concept that we can call advertorials. So they are kind of ordinary internet users who accumulate a relatively large following on their channel, and the narration is a mix between advertisement and editorial. So they share a part of their daily life. They are taking some platform trends such as my morning routine. So a lot of influencers share their morning routine basically because they want to sell beauty products. And it is interesting because girls affected by anorexia nervosa are doing the same, but they are at the hospital. So they are using some trends, but they applied the trends to their illness. And Leila, for example, has overturned the canon influencing by using trends such as the morning routine by showing them from the hospital, but at the same time, she was the first girl suffering from a severe form of anorexia nervosa to work with a brand. And this was very interesting because usually a brand chooses someone that can be the image of the brand. So the question is why a brand could choose a person suffering for a severe form of anorexia to try to sell their product, because they are on trend. So now on TikTok, there is the trend of the illness, the trend of girls suffering of anorexia nervosa, of girls suffering of cancer. And because they usually has a lot of views, such million or billion or views about the illness, brands started to use them for the advertising. So usually when we speak about influencer and micro-influencer, usually interesting in some characteristics such as exclusivity, because they have a glamorizing celebration of practices and possession that are so elite in access or rare in occurrence that will be unusual. So users follow them because they have what they can have. Maybe they are followed because of their exceptionalism. So unusual abilities, they are cooker, they are at the gym showing us some exercises, so users follow them because they are inspired by the content. Also, users usually follow people sharing their daily life, such as mom blogger, because they are sharing their routine. So people follow them because they make them feel part of a community. But lately we can see another kind of trend, that it's following someone because of empathy. So the story of a disease or belonging to a certain oppressed identity groups, and users follow them out of compassion and support. And if you are wondering why they are dancing and creating trends, it's because we can say that platforms are based on something called the visibility game. So as Boucher pointed out, by establishing the condition under which social media users are viewed, algorithms function as disciplinary apparatuses that prescribe participatory norms. So through observing the content, users with visibility, users understand the participatory norms that the algorithms reward with visibility, so they can correct their strategy. This also happens in the case of the narration of Anorexia Nervosa, where the pattern is always the same. Every successful content is replicated from a performative point of view. So trying to eat something, sharing with follower my success during my hospitalization. And if you take a look at every girl with a large amount of followers, you can see that they create trends. So they usually started with hi, hello, I'm going to the hospital because of my illness. Then they are going to share some of their medication. They are taking drugs. Then they started dancing because they feel better, but then they feel worse. So they dance with another song. Then they started try to eat something. They usually start a live session with their follower, saying that they are able to eat only if someone is watching them. So it's pretty strange to understand, because they say, doctor, don't let me to share with you me eating, but at the same time they are going to do that almost every day, and they are eating while they are answering the question by their follower. And their follower are a pretty strange community, because they encourage them like, okay, you can do it, but also because of everything became a copy of a copy of a copy. Sometimes followers are pretty bad with them, like saying, okay, now you are boring, trying to do anything else. But basically they can't understand that they are speaking with people with a very bad illness. So they are trying to convince them to change their content, but they can't do that because they are at the hospital. So there is a kind of blackout, because the empathy is totally missed, because people think that they are a kind of reality show. So I want to look at something that for me is captivating, and I don't want to see you try to eating something almost every day because you are boring. And it's pretty interesting that there is a trend about anorexia nervosa, and I think that this came out because platforms such as Instagram or TikTok are private companies that rents us a space of representation in exchange for extracting our information for marketing purposes. And they are designed to make people brands. Usually when we building a brand, there are two things that are mainly done. So the value to be attributed to the brand and the market positioning are chosen. And from here, we begin to develop what we call the brand identity. So the elements that contribute to making the brand easily recognizable by the consumer, starting from the naming. So Nike, they pay off, just do it. The logo, the vision, that are the goals, and the mission that are the implementation of the vision. So if you take a look at the user experience of the platform, you can see that there is the space for the naming, that is your username, and there is the space for the payoff, that is your bio, and also you can share your vision and your mission. So for example, Chiara Ferragni, Leon Vito's mama, and we understand that because she's sharing their children almost every 2 hours, so her vision is perfectly respected. And if you take a look at Tim Jocelyn, she is a mom speaking about childhood cancer, and she's sharing her life after child loss. So you can see that they are created by the concept that a person can become a brand. So self-branding, which is sometimes referred to a personal branding, involves individuals developing a distinctive public image for commercial gain and or cultural capital. So at the heart of self-branding is the idea that just like branded products, individuals benefit from having a public identity that is uniquely charismatic and responsive to the needs and interests of the target audience, giving them the possibility of creating a direct sales channel. In this case, they sell themselves. So the branding concept is therefore based on the promise of consistencies, which mitigates the risk for consumers who may more or less know what to expect when engaging in a brand considered reputable. For example, you can buy something made by Apple in Italy or in the United States, and you are still buying an iPhone. A shoes from Nike is the same shoes. On the platform, this is the same. So I'm Leila, I'm a girl with anorexia, and I'm sharing with you my path through my illness. But at the same time, I can escape my illness because I'm selling you my image as a sick girl. So I can work on it because if I will change my image, I will not be able to sell you my image anymore. So why everyone wants to become an influencer, even if they are a sick person? So the idea of projecting one's image through social media, together with the rise of individualism, as we saw, have strengthened the notion of self-branding among ordinary people. This in turn creates the illusion, often exemplified by the successful reality TV stars, that anyone can be famous and to be honestly successful. Why this happens? Because the structure of social platforms makes the production and distribution of content seem easy and affordable for everyone alike. So for example, a girl suffering of anorexia can create a lot of videos about that using text and content and emoji, and she can create a lot of before and after videos just using her smartphone. And a user no longer needs to be familiar with complex coding languages or other technicalities to build website, because practically anyone can upload text, images, and video almost instantly. And social platform allowing users to assert strong identities by accelerating the processes with which a user can package, execute, and sell a personal lucrative through narratives oriented toward the identified target. So social media is driven by a specific type of identity construction that is self-mediation, and what user post, share, and like effectively creates a curated and often abbreviated snapshot of how they want to be seen. So self-mediation was clearly possible before the internet age. For example, journals precede blogs, photo albums precede Instagram, and paper albums precede Facebook. But the main difference with personal archives, however, is the fact that technology now provides, through platforms for global communication, a method of interaction that allows commercial positioning at a speed that was not possible except for privileged elites. So basically, once your dad probably will take a picture of you at the sea, and you will choose which one you will put in your family album, and maybe only your parents or your grandmother will see your picture, but now everyone could see you. This is why now we are talking about self-mediation, because almost on the illness you can choose what kind of content you will share. For example, I can share me singing with my mother because I need everyone to think that I am loved. And since platforms are created for giving us metrics that are linked to self-branding, so a following can evolve into a fan base, and in this way ordinary users will find fame online. And you think about Leila, she is a very sick girl, very sick. I try to contact almost everyone from politicians to doctors, because at one time she has gained like 5,000 followers while sharing her sickness or more every day. But from her video, you can for sure say that she is very ill, but a lot of persons continue to ask her for video. So she has metrics that are telling her, you are right now because you are very sick, you are very thin, and people are loving you because you are that way. So we can say that this kind of type of content that is about sharing your personal life started from the popularity of some television programs such as the Big Brother, which transform ordinary participants into small town stars, displacing them from the peripheries of cultural life at its core, that is celebrity. And Turner speak about the demotic turn, and he say that almost everyone could be famous because of some television program like reality television, docu-soaps, and reality-based game show like Temptation Island, for example, that are a program where the common element was based on people seeking for fame. For sure, now we are surrounded by TV shows that are speaking about illness. So like, I don't know if you ever watched something on Real Time, but they are full of this kind of television program. And this is why people started to share their journey online. At the same time, another important concept is the commodification of self. So with the commodification of self, individuals are stuck in a mood of constant promotion. So this emerges spectacularly on social platform as they produce self-branding inventories. So say if you take a look on a feed on Instagram or on a feed on TikTok, and you start reading the copy post, and you put some attention on the video, you can understand that they are a kind of self-branding inventories, because they always speak about them. They always try to gain visibility. They always try to play the visibility game by using trends and music that are on trends, and by dancing stuff that are on trends. So self-branding asks the individual to see relationship as transactional and instrumental, and took to the market the goal of the personal fulfillment. Usually we can talk about tropes, and there was a very interesting experiment like 10 years ago made by Amalia Ullman that it's an American artist, and she started by sharing on her Instagram page an image composed of the text part 1 with the caption "Excellence and Performance," and she didn't tell anyone that she was trying to create the first Instagram performance ever, and she started to create a particular narration, and the staging of this performance was divided into a beginning, a climax, and an end, and the character played was not only one but many, who gradually evolve and move on the next stage of the story. So she started from a naive Kiev Tumblr girl who has just moved from a small town to Los Angeles, and then she tell her follower that she broke up with her boyfriend, so she became a kind of ghetto girl. Then she tried to become a kind of vegan, natural chic, a la Gwyneth Paltrow, and each of these stages meant to be representative of a stereotype, using specific communication path, and she represented every trope using the visual universe and the hashtag connected to that stereotype. Why is important this experiment? Because the concept of trope is always valid. If you think about the most followed person on a social account, you will understand that they are trope because they are the it girl or the rapper or the girl telling I'm CEO of myself, I just founded my company, even if I'm 22 years old. I call that magic capitalism, because everyone now is able to create something even if we don't know anything about their past. And the concept of trope is valid also for anorexia. So why we start follow them? Because of the concept of TV of pain. For Italian speaker, probably you remember Alfredino Rampi that falls into a well, and that was the first non-stop live TV broadcasting of Italian history, and for over 72 hours the Italians witnessed that tragedy. So they decided also to put microphone inside the well because we wanted to hear that poor children screaming and crying for days. And then he died. And for the live coverage of the tragedy, the expression pain TV was coined. That is television programming that are focused on dramatization, emphasize the agony of the victim's family, and aims to increase the pathos of the spectator. So the phenomenon has obviously also taken hold on social network, and we can see two different approaches. That is the active one, so first person content sharing, and the passive one, so sharing other people's content in your feed story, so participating as a community through comments or donation. And these can be considered as digital activities that are layered on top of each other, which identify and define us, validating us in our eyes or in those of others by defining, which I call a kind of ethic of authenticity that is formed scroll after scroll, like after like, because try to ask yourself, if I see a girl crying on my feed and I will not give her a like, maybe I'm a piece of shit. So this is why we are following them, because there is a kind of strange ethics inside social account that consists of sharing stuff, even if I can understand them. So think, for example, on your Instagram stories, maybe you will share something about the war in Afghanistan, and then you eating something that it's a kind of mental blackout, because you are not always thinking about what you are doing, but there is that strange kind of ethics. It's like the FOMO of the ethics. So I'm following those goals, even if I know that I am giving them the strength to continue to be sick, and even if I know that I can do in another way, because there is this strange ethics. So by leveraging the emotional factor, a profile can gain commercial power, and at the same time it can rise to a moral device. So it is unstable, because no one will ever take side against one of the liberalism favorite subjects, that is the victim. So illness, pain, trauma become an identity precept and a currency of exchange with brands that want to position themselves within a market segment that is difficult to reach, and that can count on the emotional fragility of those who watch the content. So if you take a look at this picture, you will see that there is a girl fighting cancer and another one suffering of eating disorder, but they are basically doing the same content because that content is viral. So the thing that is appropriate to say to someone with fighting cancer, and the thing that appropriate to say it's to someone that is fighting with eating disorder, because it became a performative stuff. So the consequences are emulation. The most viewed and our content are replicated by people by looking for validation. The validation obtained will lead them to identify even more with the diseases. Illness is romanticized and self-mediated to have more captivating content, and there is the performative content that component that can also be seen in the use of specific hashtags such as For You page. So they want to be seen and appreciated. The content do not concern to a personal journey, but to the need to be validated. We know for sure that from documents shared by former Meta employees that demonstrate how the company knows that content shared on the platform is critical to eating disorder. So this is obviously also valid for TikTok, where very weight loss videos and miracle diets are among the most uploaded content. So the phenomenon brings to the light two elements. The first is the need for digital education, and the second is a regulatory framework that regulates these contents. Grazie.
Thank you, Serena. So now I guess that we have time for discussion. And you were perfect with timing. You didn't need my slide with 5 minutes, 2 minutes. So are there any questions in the room? So maybe I can start. So you were talking about at the beginning of your presentation about these patterns that seem to be more popular or more powerful or successful. So it seems that these girls, or I mean, in general, like accounts keep replicating those kind of formats. So I would like you to speculate more about these kind of formats, which are, in your opinion, the format that seem to be more attractive for people, and why do they are attractive? I mean, which kind of idea did you create in your mind about this kind of phenomenon, weird phenomenon? Because I was thinking, like, what do these choices, online choices, tell us about our morbosity as an online community, and how can we define our online community on the basis of these choices?
Yeah, consider that platforms are based on the economy of attention. So they are trying to attract you and giving you the possibility to spend more and more time on the platform. As I told you, we are influenced by this kind of strange ethics that is like, I'm going to take a look at that kind of content because they are suffering and they need me to see them because they are suffering. And this is valid also for a lot of content that are connected to death, for example, and for any other kind of illness. So, for example, I found a path around children with disabilities, and also very strange content. For example, a mother decided to share videos of the funeral of her baby, and at the end of the video there was a text that it was like, take a look at that website. And I looked at the website, and she basically started selling a t-shirt with the concept, good morning and keep the kids alive. So she started selling t-shirt after the loss of her child, and this was pretty crazy. And at the same time, for anorexia, I think that it's almost the same, because maybe you are a girl looking for diet hashtag or that kind of content, but we know that looking at people suffering will let you to stay more and more on the platform. So the algorithm decides to show you a lot of this kind of content. I tried to search diet, and now my feed is completely full by this kind of video, and I'm starting to feel like I need to try to a new diet, because I just saw only girls that are sad because they are fat, and then they are happy because they are thin. And there is a kind of morbosity that it's pretty hard to explain, because for sure I think that a normal person will not look for children that is dying, but we are full of that kind of video. I think that the platform encouraged this kind of videos, because I start seeing them during the pandemic. So when all the people were worried about the pandemic, maybe I could be sick, maybe I will die, they started to share a lot of people, a lot of videos of people dying. And at the same time, if you are interested into your body's perception, then probably you will try to search for this kind of content. And the fact is that when someone starts a new trend, usually the algorithm share it on the For You page almost for everyone. So maybe you will see a girl with an eating disorder saying that I want to play with that one and looking this way. And then a lot of them started doing the same because they are playing the visibility game, as I told you. So sometimes something that it's hard to explain in a rational way, but you are just trying to reach most people possible. So I think that it's pretty hard to analyze this kind of phenomena, because there is not a rationalization under this kind of content, but it's more like, okay, I'm suffering now, I can share a video of me suffering as the girl I just saw, and I saw that now she is celebrating her success. As I told you, Maya, it's just 15 years old, and she continued to share on her bios. Now I'm reaching 1,000 person, 1,050, 2,000. So she continued to create videos of her suffering, but they are sharing it not because she wants to speak about her journey through her illness, but just because she wants visibility. And she understood that if you share your suffer, you are loved by people. And so people encourage her, so come on, Maya, you can do it, you can do it. So maybe she share a video of her 18 something, but you can feel her pain trying to eat. So basically, they are sharing videos just because they want to be loved, and they gain a lot of views, millions of views just trying to eat. So you understand that if you suffer of some diseases that is pretty connected with your body and the idea of your body, if you found out that you can be loved by sharing your suffering, you will start to do that. And for sure, the thing is that maybe there is an influencer, for example, Chiara Ferragni, starting a new trend. So you can see her singing a song, and then a girl with anorexia will start the same trend, but maybe doing that at the hospital. So maybe there is Chiara Ferragni walking like a model with a song that could be Top Model by Maneskin, and they are they are doing the same at the hospital. But I think that there is not a kind of rationality in that. They just are seeking for visibility.
Are there any questions? Because otherwise you... Oh, okay.
A very simple question. How can we survive to this panorama? I mean, how can we educate adolescents to manage this kind of contents? I'm not a mother, but I empathize.
Well, even if I work with social media for like 10 years now, I'm a kind of, I don't know if you ever watched Day Live by Carpenter, and at the end they try to distract almost everything, and I am now in that kind of vision that I think that probably we should kill the social media, but we can do that. And for sure we need to educate people, because they probably don't understand the consequences. So they want, for example, children exposure on social media are pretty connected to pedopography online, and this kind of material, so sharing your illness could be very dangerous for other people. But even if you just share your journey, the transformation of your body could be very dangerous for a very young girl. And I don't know if you ever take a look at the Facebook paper, that is the material that say that there is a connection between social media and the rise of this kind of illness. I think that people should know about that. So if you want to use them, okay, but I think that we need the rules. So, for example, in France and in, I think, Norwegian parliament, they decided to put a limit to the filter you can use. So if you are using a filter, you have to say that. And also they decided to limit the access to platform to 14 years old person, and it's not possible to share picture of children, but that's a kind of regulation that we probably need, because as I told you, there are some hashtags that you can't use on TikTok or on Instagram. And I think that we should work more on the languages and on the system that tags that kind of hashtag, because they could be for sure very dangerous. But starting from my personal experience, now I'm trying to share online lesson about how to understand more the dark side of social media. And I think that people are very interested in that, because social media are very pervasive, and almost they are something that you can use every 20 seconds, and you probably don't understand how much they influence your life and your thoughts. So for sure, we need to educate more people, and we need to ask for a new kind of regulation about this kind of platform, because they are very dangerous.
A very interesting presentation. Thank you. I think that your presentation is a tale of corruption. Ferragni has taken the place of Aretusa, a reality show instead of evocative stories, full of lights and shadows, with enigmatic aspects. Now, all is obscene, like pornography. Thank you.
So I would suggest a round of applause for our speaker, because your presentation was really incredible, incredibly interesting, was amazing. So thank you very much, Serena.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I guess that we can move to the next session. The next chairperson will be Giorgia.
Okay, now we have the second and last oral session of IPAN conference. We will listen 3 talks, and each speaker has about 15 minutes, and then there will be time for questions. And the first talk is the one about Visconti, Pruccoli, Moriani, and Parmigiani. Okay. Okay, with the title, The Online Experience of Feeding and Eating Disorders, a survey on TikTok and messaging apps use among children and adolescents, referring to a third lab center.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Caterina Visconti, and today I'd like to share with you the results of the survey on TikTok and messaging apps used among patients in developmental age with eating disorder that my colleagues and I conducted in our third level center here in Bologna. So I am particularly interested in this subject, so I would like to thank all the organizers for giving me the opportunity to speak about this today. Okay, so we all know that the effects and social consequences that media, fashion, and advertising industries have had on body image and aesthetic standards in general. Also today, however, we should acknowledge that social media are not anymore only as mean of communication, but they are also an important source of information, especially among youngs, and particularly among patients affected by eating disorders, who can be reluctant to seek help, but they can easily access social media and look for advice, information, or simply support. Different studies already documented how social media can promote anorexia nervosa, And our center already documented the increase in the frequency and psychosocial consequences of pro-ANA websites and assessed the effects of social media on self-esteem and also the correlation with specific contents. Today, I'd like to focus also on the effects of personal networks on eating disorders. And with personal networks, I refer to the creators that patients choose to follow, the group chats that patients actively choose to enter. So with this in mind, in February-March 2023, an anonymous paper survey was conducted in our third level center for eating disorder for childhood and adolescents. We wanted to assess the use of TikTok and messaging apps like WhatsApp or Telegram. What kind of contents our patients like the most, the use of TikTok, so if it's an active use or a passive use, and the consequences of this use on the eating disorder, with the motivation in weight loss or in the recovery. Also, we wanted to explore the world of the messaging apps, since I believe there are not many data about this. So we wanted to know if our patients were part of messaging apps, when and why did they decided to get in, to enter these chats, the topics discussed on chats, and the influence of shared peer experience on these chats. Also, we wanted to explore the figure of a coach on messaging apps. A coach is usually a group member of a chat who spontaneously offer his or her help to other group members to follow the other group members in their weight loss journey. And I specify that usually the group the coach is not an academic educated person. And here are the results. So we had 78 participants with an age from 11 to 19 years old. Almost all the sample have a TikTok account, so almost 90% of the sample have a TikTok account. 64% spend 1 to 3 hours a day on TikTok. And 66% of patients with a TikTok account follow creators with an eating disorder. So creators who had an eating disorder or who are currently having an eating disorder. These are the favorite contents, the what I eat in a day. The previous speaker explained what kind of content it is. So just the creators usually show what they eat from breakfast to dinner with all the snacks. The daily vlog is also quite favorite. And it's a content where the creator show his day from the morning to the evening, and it could be a special day or just a normal day. Also, the get ready with me and the fit recipes are also very liked contents. We asked our patients if they interact with creators, and 64% actively interact with likes and comments. And we also asked if they share anything on TikTok, so if they actively use the application, and only 23% actively creates content. Among them, 16% share their eating disorder experience. What's interesting is that we found out a significant correlation between some contents and motivation in weight loss. So, for example, the what I eat in a day, the hospitalization for the eating disorder treatment, and the body transformation contents are mostly liked by patients who are more motivated in weight loss. The body transformation is a content where creators show himself or herself before and after a specific workout routine, which he has practiced for several months or weeks. It's not all bad, so there are also some positive implications. We also found significant correlations between between the fear food experience and the motivation in recovery. So, patient whose favorite content is the fear food experience are more motivated in recovery. This is a content where the creator show him or herself. The creator is usually someone who has an eating disorder. Show himself or herself while eating fear foods, pizza, pasta, ice cream, but also carrots with oil. So it could be anything, could be a fear food. This is also these are the results about the messaging apps. We asked our patients if they were part of group chats, and 80% are part of group chats. Among them, 53% entered group chats from the very beginning of the eating disorder, and usually because of loneliness and need of confrontation. Group chats, just like TikTok, have negative and positive implications. So 85% of patients on group chats reported that they have been helped by other messaging apps members, but 35% reported that they have been insulted. And probably this is one of the reasons why chat members still feel significantly more understood from the medical team than from others messaging apps users. Okay. The topics discussed on the group chats are all about the eating disorder. So they ask advice on diet, restrictive behaviors, compensation behaviors, but also support in recovery. We also asked our patients if they had ever had a coach. And among the patients who were part of group chats, 35% said that they had a coach, and 40% received a nutrition plan from the coach. We also asked our patients if they had ever been someone else's coach on messaging apps, and 28% of our sample said that they have been someone else's coach. We also asked how did you coach someone else? And this is what our patient reported. She said, I used to tell them what I was technically supposed to do, like all meals and snacks, pretending I didn't have an eating disorder. Very funny, I know. So going to conclusions, this study documents how virtual interaction of patients with eating disorder can actually influence the eating disorder course. Patients' virtual experience on social media and messaging apps is increasingly present and meaningful. We should be aware of the influence that these applications exert on young adolescents. Of course, further studies are needed to assess the psychopathological consequences and factors behind this phenomenon. Okay, thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much for very interesting presentations. Are there any questions? Okay, so I actually have a question. So among the reasons why adolescents suffering from eating disorders use group chats, sense of loneliness has emerged. And in your study, it also emerged that many of the chat users declare to do so in order to seek support in recovery. So I was wondering, how do you think that these two factors, so sense of loneliness and need to seek support from others, are related in eating disorders? Or maybe do you think that the sense of loneliness play a role in the onset or in the progression of this disease? We also know that due to COVID pandemic, in the youngest, the sense of loneliness has worsened in these past years.
Yes, I do think that loneliness is part of the eating disorder. We also listened, this morning we had a presentation where we also listened to the correlation of the disorders and isolation. Yes, isolation, exactly. So I think it's is one of the factors that contributes to the beginning and of course the following the procedure, how the disorder goes on. Talking about the group chats, I think that we talk about different group chats. I think patients who look for support are in some kind of chats, messaging chat, and it's not the same. And those who look for like the weight loss and the advice for diet, they are in different group chats. So I think that many group chats, and depending on what you're looking for, you will choose one or the others. I think it's like this, but I'm not part of this group chat, so I don't know. I don't really know. It's my idea and about what patients told us.
Thank you very much. There is a question.
Thank you very much, Caterina, for shedding some light onto this work we are conducting under the supervision of Professor Antonio Parmigiani, which is here, and with Maria as well. And that was an outstanding presentation. And I just have one tricky question for you, since it's so strange for us to talk with the patients and hear from them that they are joining into some kind of private chat, which is encouraging the diffusion of disordered eating behaviors. What do you think? Should we just try to discourage our patients, and say them, you just have to go out of that, or maybe try to get into that thing, understand and talk about it? It is a tricky question, also about suicide and things like that. There are chats also about other disordered behaviors in psychopathology. What do you think?
I don't think that we should banish group chats at all. Just say, okay, you can't be part of group chats because they are wrong, and you can't look for advice in this. We are your medical team, and you have to follow what we tell you. I think everybody here is part of group chats, and banish group chats will only increase the curiosity of the patients. We can educate patients, and we can do our part, and we can provide the best support and the best also psychological support, and also confrontation with other patients. I don't think that just banishing and just telling to patients just get out of the chat will help. Also because I think that just like TikToks, everything have positive and negative implications. So for someone could be really helpful just to know that on virtual interaction they could be helped. Of course, it's all about the use and education, as we just said. Yes, of course. I think they will find another way if they.
But I think that it is important for us, for the child neurology psychiatrists, to have an idea about this type of communication.
Yes, of course, it's important.
We need a master about social media, yes. I think.
Yes.
Okay. We have time for one question, if there is. Although please, the speaker, thank you very much for your presentation. So the next talk is the one. Okay, it's online. So. The next talk is the one by Ondracek and Kabatnik. Can you listen us?
Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm here.
Okay, Ondracek, and are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay.
We are sorry.
We are sorry.
Technical problems.
It's
Okay.
fine. Is the audio working now? Can you
So
hear me?
you can share your screen.
All right.
Okay. We actually can't hear you. So.
Okay.
Ah, okay. Okay, we'll fix it. Maybe we now can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Can you try to talk now? That we want to check if we can hear you. Okay, now no. Okay, we're sorry, we'll try to fix this. Okay, can you try to talk?
Hello.
Okay, now we can
It's
hear
working.
you. Okay,
That's
we're
great.
sorry. So
it's fine, no worries.
Okay, you can also share your screen. Okay, thank you. So now we will listen to talk about Ondrasek and Kabatnik with the title, Although I was already at abyss with the eating disorder, I can't completely let it go. Lexical markers in German eating disorders communication on Tumblr. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much also for the introduction. Just a short note. I'm Sarah Ondrasek and I'm currently doing my master's in digital humanities at the University of Trier in Germany. And this is the presentation. And it focuses on the extraction of distinctive linguistic markers from text posts for the tag Essstörung, which is eating disorder in English, that we scraped from the social network Tumblr using an API. The study originated in a research project on epidemiological vocabulary in social networks at the University of Trier under the direction of Prof. Susan Kabatnik, who can't be here today, but who supports this presentation. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, the German General Health Insurance Fund has recorded an increase in mental illnesses among children and adolescents. The number of eating disorder cases increased by almost 25%. In her research paper from 2012, Gala Rebane already speaks of anorexia becoming almost pandemic in the Western world, a topic that has ergo been gaining relevance for more than 10 years, as you can also see with this conference. Due to its high mortality rate, anorexia is a mental illness that requires dedicated research and improved early diagnosis. Interdisciplinary research approaches and the recognition of patterns in language provide insights into the mental world of those affected and are thus a type of early warning system and diagnostic support. Tumblr is particularly suitable for this study because it is mainly used by younger adults and teenagers, for example, the Gen Z. And existing eating disorder communities are represented and have already been researched. The peer group focused communication there, as on other social networks, reinforces the development of a group language. In 2001, researchers studied self-presentation and self-disclosure on the internet and showed that interpersonal interaction on the web is different from real-life communication. This seems self-evident to us nowadays in 2023, but was an important new insight for the early 2000s. Johnson in 2001 showed that self-disclosure is more likely in online communication than in face-to-face conversations. This is a cornerstone for further research with eating disorder data from the web. Other studies found that eating disorder websites have different thematic distributions depending on whether people lean more towards pro-ANA or pro-recovery. For example, pro-ANA sites contained advice on avoiding exposure to outsiders. Pro-recovery sites, on the other hand, contained introspective first-person viewpoints. Linguistic identities of affected people and a strong group identification, for example, with pro-ANA, are mainly shown by the description of self-induced physiological changes like weight loss or hair loss, but also by the feeling of being different, which takes place as a separation from the group of the outsiders. Word frequency, part of speech analysis and machine learning, as well as other natural language processing methods, are used to investigate the lexical, stylistic, or emotional content of eating disorder statements and facilitate the identification of distinctive speech patterns. Wolf et al. In 2013 already state that results appear to reflect the psychological conditions of the blog authors and provide insight into the various stages of coping. Now for data and methods, we create for the examination of lexical markers for eating disorder communication on Tumblr, we created 2 corpora. Corpus 1 consists of 381 textual posts, and 323 of them are in German and 37 in English. Tumblr's API only allows a single tag search, so we built the corpus using only a single tag, namely Essstörung, so eating disorder. We chose this tag instead of anorexia because we initially wanted to see how globally people talk about eating disorders on Tumblr, but the focus on anorexia emerged naturally from Corpus 1 because most of the content revolves around this word. The corpus period covers just under 2 years, and we created another corpus, the second one, from the tags that contain other expressions in addition to the tag Essstörung. The Corpus 1 contains, after cleaning it and removing empty posts and such, 22,627 tokens, and the Corpus 2 consists of 4,835 tags. First, I want to present and discuss the tag corpus very shortly. In addition to the search tag Essstörung, words from the medical diagnostic field are present. Anorexia and bulimia, of course, but also SVV, which is short for Selbstverletzendes Verhalten in German, which is self-injurious behavior, or also something like suicidal thoughts appears. The tags recontextualize the posts and give hints for determining lexical markers. Users themselves basically already set their own markers which match their posts. Although we explicitly searched for the German tag Essstörung, we received 10% entirely English posts. We found that the authors are all German speakers, but run their blogs in 2 languages, so German and English. Costa et al. In 2014 found that there is a greater psychological distance and also an emotional distance between foreign language and native language. It is also conceivable that users choose English in order to participate in the global discourse on Tumblr. The core of our analysis is the investigation of language use and thus of lexical markers by means of corpus linguistic procedures. Sketch Engine, the tool, enables such analysis. Results provide initial indications of trends in linguistic patterns and peculiarities in the language of potential eating disorder patients. This can be compared to the stable lexical marker analysis that was proposed by De Hertog et al. In 2014. The most frequent word in the corpus is ich, which means I in English, and has 981 occurrences. Its frequency provides a first impression of the focus in the corpus, the self-centeredness, as well as the willingness to self-disclosure, which was already mentioned by Joinson in 2001. In addition, there is an isolation of the self from outsiders, this I versus you thing. An example from the corpus illustrates how the user questions whether her therapist is competent enough to treat her. The hours were characterized by unpleasant silences, and when I then had to explain to her the diagnostic criteria for anorexia according to the ICD-10, I began to have my doubts as to whether she was the right one for my clinical picture despite all her niceness. Which is what is striking here is the disparity between this omniscient I and of the eating disordered person and the trained therapist whose competence is completely questioned. These lexical markers like I, but also my and mine, show the clear linguistic delineation and consolidation of one's own self-image in the eating disorder community and the feeling of being different or special of those affected. Keywords contain typical vocabulary from the eating disorder world, such as, again, like in the text, anorexia, bulimia, or also starving. This is not surprising. Users frequently use medical diagnostic jargon, for example, again, anorexia, but also borderline or ICD-10, which indicates their psychoeducational knowledge. In addition, keywords and associated concordances drew our attention to repetitive patterns in the user's expressions. For example, some exhibit an immensely fluctuating self-perception of themselves and their eating disorder. I just want to say I'm sorry for the swear words that now will appear. Yeah, bitch, just because I'm skinny doesn't mean I'm at a risk, or I don't starve myself. It is important to keep in mind that both of her posts, from the same person, are tagged with Essstörung. She therefore both denies and acknowledges her illness in the same posts. Also, an in-group slang emerges where words are used that can only be correctly understood by those concerned without a background context. The actual connotation also remains obscure to outsiders. This includes, for example, the term pro-ana, as well as personifications and fixed syntagms that I will present to you in the following section. Another special feature are those personifications, and in this case, especially Ana and Mia. Ana is a desirable physical and mental state, a person or even a deity motivating and encouraging the pro-anas to continue their path to beauty and perfection. Based on this quantitative and qualitative analysis, I argue that the members of pro-eating disorder community construct the ideology of anorexia as lifestyle through personification. This is a quote from another research project which fit very well, because in 2018, Reimann also describes Ana and Mia as anthropomorphizations, very hard words, through abbreviated forms for bulimia nervosa and anorexia nervosa. These personifications do not only appear in our corpus in the form of Ana and Mia, but also, for example, as my friend, the eating disorder, she has been my companion for a long time, or directly with contact with Ana mentioned, give into my demons, give into her, the eating disorder, Ana. The disease is humanized, becoming an external person and friend, as well as a companion in everyday life. Since Ana and Mia are exclusive to the eating disorder vocabulary in this form, they function as lexical markers. Other potential lexical markers are anglicisms that occur as pejoratives, for example, expressions of strong emotions. In the focus corpus, these include, for example, fuck, as you can see here. From the example, I'm under my hospitalization weight, fuck. Fixed syntagms are systematically repeated in our corpus across users and illustrate how in-group slang established itself where sufferers have similar strong feelings. Among the most prominent are Zahl auf der Waage, number on the scale, and Finger in den Hals, finger down the throat. These fixed sentence structures are used by different users in different situations. However, the physical changes or actions associated with them are often emblematic of the feelings or desires of those affected. I know that the decreasing number on the scale won't make anything better, but I can't stop either. Finally, I would like to discuss the re-evaluation of certain words in the anorexia language. In this context, affected persons assign a disease-specific meaning to certain topics. An example of this is the word cheat day from the corpus. Generally, cheat day refers to a day when someone takes a break from a diet and is allowed to consume otherwise forbidden food. In contrast, cheat day here refers to a day on which the rules of the eating disorder do not apply. Sufferers eat huge amounts of forbidden foods and feel guilty, then compensate for this, for example, by self-harming. Because of school, I had less time for sports, which was so frustrating for me that a cheat day turned into a cheat week, then a cheat month, and finally a cheat year. I gained weight every day, was only eating once no one was watching, and slipped into binge eating. The example from the corpus clearly shows that it is no longer just a diet. The initially harmless cheat day, accompanied by frustration, led the user into the next eating disorder, the binge eating disorder. The statements in the German anorexia community on Tumblr largely fit the pro-anorexia movement. They themselves are not aware of the severity of their illness, or they negate it completely. As also observed in previous studies, there is an extraordinary self-focus of the users in the corpus, as well as the isolation from affected people. The self-consciousness of those affected seems torn, wavering, and isolated from the rest of the world. Anna, as a friend, manifests herself in linguistic peculiarities, such as frequent personification. Affected people often perceive their illness as an entity or alien voice with which they can identify themselves. The high psychological distress associated with the illnesses is particularly expressed in English pejoratives. The repeated use of fixed sentence structures that are particular to anorexia language highlights the emergence of an in-group vocabulary that sufferers use to communicate their inner world to the outside world. This also includes the reinterpretation of already existing words. At the moment, the corpus is too small for en vogue machine learning methods. It would be a worthwhile approach to enlarge the corpus and use it for classification tasks or the like. In addition, the single tag search only allows us to make statements about posts with the specific tag Essstörung. Using a different Tumblr API to get a bigger picture could help to enhance the explanatory power of the study. Nevertheless, the analysis of the Tumblr corpus and included lexical markers give us a brief glimpse into the inner world of those affected. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for your very interesting presentations. Are there any questions? Oh, okay, so I actually have a question. Do you compare, or do you plan to compare lexical markers usage from your corpus with language data of people that do not suffer of eating disorder, or searching linguistic data using other tags?
Thank you for the question. This is actually also what I was thinking about when talking about machine learning or classification tasks, because I think it is very important to compare what we found in our study with what people with no eating disorders say, and this would be the easiest way to do this would be using some kind of classification task to, for example, let the computer decide which expression is of which class. Is it an eating disorder lexical marker, or is it just a standard lexical marker of affected people?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, if there aren't any questions, we thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we will listen the last talk. Okay, now we will listen a work by Chinello, Parma, Frigerio, Galli, Richichi, Zappa, Squotto, Cadeo, Dell'Orletta, Boschetti, and Ricciardelli. Okay, we have some technical issues. Okay, with the title, Proana semantics of food from website to screening tool for anorectic bulimic risk in online settings. Okay, and now the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I am in the unlucky situation to close the oral session, and with hot temperature and with probably a possible attention decline. And so I hope and ask you to give me other 10 minutes of your attention. So first of all, I would like to thank the scientific committee of this Congress because it's not easy to put together clinical and not clinical operators in this domain. Generally in Italy, it's not very easy. As you can see from my title, I would like to start my talk with a very brief introduction about the Proana phenomenon. From 1990, alarming epidemiological data about anorexia nervosa were documented in all Western societies, defining anorexia as a sort of a new social emergency. In those years, eating disorders became a crucial domain, eliciting political, clinical, institutional action, and even new scientific interest, with an improvement of research activities and clinical practices. Crucially, after the introduction of and the use of internet and the presence of virtual spaces, blog, forum, some authors suggested the presence of a new generation of eating disorders. The term Proana, pro-anorexia, as you probably know now, is a phenomenon born roughly 25 years ago in the United States, and in Italy roughly 20 years ago, with more than 300,000 Proana websites in the world, with a rate of growth of more than 400 of Proana sites just in the United States. Within this framework, anoretic traits and behavior are considered as a sort of positive lifestyle in complex and interconnected virtual communities, mainly composed by female teenagers, and young adults. In these communities, members share opinion, eating strategies, body images, emotional contents, influencing their social identity, but also creating a sort of a community sense of belonging against isolation. But unfortunately, this membership may improve eating disorder risk, determining low esteem, body dissatisfaction, and even symptom immolation. Crucially, most of the scientific research focuses the attention of clinical practices, prevention, screening tool applied to eating disorders, but with a low interest about Proana domain. Indeed, limited studies are described in literature due to some specific disadvantages in studying this phenomenon. Firstly, Proana groups are closed communities with limited access on social networks, such as WhatsApp group chat. Secondly, despite the wide diffusion of websites dedicated to eating and body image, literature lacks of a shared criteria to disentangle Proana sites versus non-Proana sites. And more specifically, the complexity of this phenomenon is also represented by the fact that some website are composed by proana, but also promia aspects. Promia is probulimia aspects. Another problem consists in the resistance, a sort of resistance of clinical services, and an insufficient knowledge about social network of mental health operators for the creation of significant and fruitful prevention action on internet. But significantly, proana studies has also advantages, in particular regarding the modality of communication. This communication is very free in this forum, in this blog, is not structured like in some part of the research, in clinical research, is not a structured interview, for example. And so the communication is free, spontaneous, with a lot of meanings, thoughts, and representation, difficultly investigable by structured clinical or research-based interview, and promoting also a qualitative dimension of the research, qualitative studies, not just quantitative studies. Just an example on this direction is our study about the representation of fathers and mothers on proana website, to test the presence of the power semantics in these families by using by analyzing 10 big proana blogs. Thanks to this technique, it's possible to emerge some important semantics about the power, the control, the conversation about food, especially associated to maternal representation, while the father representation is mainly associated to labor economic power or the absence. During the last 25 years, Maria Bianca Corno Foundation, the place where I work as a researcher, focused their attention on eating disorders with multiple action in domain of clinical practice, research activities, prevention in the community, and professional training. 4 years ago, the foundation considered the proana phenomenon as a crucial topic for the better understanding of a new generation of eating disorders online, and promoting the constitution of the first proana National Center, thanks to the collaboration with Fondazione di Comunità Monza e Brianza. This National Center aims to identify the Italian proana website to promote online clinical prevention and proana research activities with significant collaboration with the universities such as the University of Milan Bicocca and Bologna, and research centers such as the CNR, the Istituto Zampolli of Pisa. In different domains such as psychology, linguistics, but also cultural anthropology. Today, my talk is dedicated to 2 research articles based on food preference. Proana and food preference, with the aim to create a sort of interplay between proana corpora and the clinical prevention. These articles are based on a linguistic analysis of proana website in Italy, exploring the domain of food preference. Our interest about food is easily understandable due to its connection with eating disorders and eating behaviors, frequently associated to meanings, emotions, and thoughts in proana population, but also in patients. Not surprisingly, from our descriptive analysis, the verb to eat, here in green, represents one of the most important and cited verbs in the virtual communities, proana communities, with an association with specific feelings of loneliness and guilt. Food is relevant because of limited studies on food diaries about in anoretic patients, sometimes with pure accuracy about the data collection, and moreover, the traditional literature show frequently structured method with prearranged tools based on research decision, adopting a top-down approach, basically. The present study aims to characterize the food vocabulary used spontaneously by proana blog user in Italy, identifying specific semantics associated with restrictive and anoretic behaviors. So, thanks to T2 software and a tool for the extrapolation of knowledge for textual corpora, we analyzed the 10 big Proana, Italian Proana sites. And our descriptive analysis in terms of frequency distribution were compared to a journalistic corpora as a term of comparison. Here in this table, you can see the Proana food preference coming from this analysis. And as you can see, the results explain the presence of non-caloric or hypocaloric drinks in the eating habits of this population, the prevalence of vegetables, and the presence of non-alarming labels, such as light, no fat, sugar-free, especially when we talk about cheese or sweet food, but even the absence of meat or fish in this menu. Taking into account these results, then we decided to create a sort of screening tool dedicated to anorexia and bulimia risk. So we created 2 different randomized checklists, one preference, in which we ask what is the food they like. On the contrary, there is another checklist based on the food really eaten during the last 2 weeks. The recruitment is via Facebook, Instagram, so the principal social network. And then the battery is composed by the ERT26, which is the traditional questionnaire for the measurement of the anoretic and bulimic risk, our checklist, and also some demographic and individual variables that we introduce as controlled variables for our analysis. Here in the table, you can see just those foods that are strictly associated to anoretic and bulimic risk measured by ERT26. And then after these results, we create a sort of formula, as you can see here, made of this item together. And all these items are can have a plus or minus on the basis of the difference between the ERT26 scores when the item is selected or not selected. Considering this formula, it was possible to measure the predictive power and the sensitivity and specificity power of this formula for our screening tool. In this case, the sensitivity of the formula is 1.5 with a very low specificity, but it doesn't matter because a high rate of false positive case is acceptable for a screening tool. The SCOF, for example, the SCOF questionnaire, which is one of the more traditional and classical questionnaire, has a sensitivity of 93, but a specificity of 53. Because of course, after a screening tool is necessary, a subsequent rigorous and psychiatric evaluation with aim to confirm the positive cases. So in conclusion, I want to stress the importance of Proana corpora as a source of meanings, emotion, ideas, representation about this specific population and generally about anorexia nervosa, but also the possibility to use this corpora, this data, with aim to create a new, early and quick tool for the detection of anorexia and bulimia nervosa risk, especially in online settings, because now the squares are online, not are outside the church or in real life, as you know. Many thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. And are there any questions? Okay, so I have a question because I think that it is really interesting your talk when you use some linguistic features as a sort of biomarker for the disease, for an early detection. And I was wondering, you of course focus on food, on the area semantic of food, on semantic area of food. But do you think that there are also other semantic areas? I don't know, for example, the body or feelings, or maybe the metaphor of power that we talk about in the discussion and poster section, that could work as well, and maybe that could benefit on your tool for screening purposes.
Many thanks for the question. Of course, there are a lot of different elements and domains that we can explore by using this technique. First of all, the body is the second main domain within the eating disorder framework, of course. But in this case, we wanted to create a sort of checklist because the final goal was to use a different way to measure the risk, which is not a question like in the SCOF questionnaire. It's not like in EAT26, a sort of sensation feeling when I have to say yes or no, but they are just food. Generally speaking, when someone score and give points for this checklist, there is no an interpretative modality and needs for the user to compile this question. On the contrary, for example, for SCOF questionnaire, there is necessary the interpretation of the doctor. So there is a sort of mediation, personal mediation, interpretation of the answer of the patients. So the necessity is also to create a very quick, because the quick tool, because it's very quick for a very rapid screening at the population level, because we need quick tools, rapid tools. SCOF is not so rapid to identify the risk, even positive cases, but also negative cases, and then will be the psychiatric evaluation. The point to select, to identify the real positive case, the real clinical cases.
Okay, thank you very much. There is a question from Professor.
My last question. What about considering emoticons? Because
we try, yeah, it's another
the
idea.
lock or the butterfly.
Unfortunately, this software is dedicated to just the linguistic corpora, so just words, basically. But in our corpora of these 10 Proana websites, we have emotion emoticons, so we can do also this analysis. But for the limitation of technology, we have to analyze just strictly linguistic information.
But for the building of the tool, in my opinion, you can improve the sensitivity of the instrument using also visual information.
Maybe as a future perspective.
I will tell to Felice dell'Orletto.
For a future perspective.
Okay, thank you again. Okay, so thank you very much for all the speakers. I leave the floor to Professor Gagliardi for the closing ceremony. Sì, qui questa zona qui.
Okay, good evening. I know after these long, exhausting days, we are all looking forward to have a rest. I'm looking to have rest. And I just want to make some final concluding comments. I'll start with few thank yous because I'm coming to the stage, to the podium really filled with gratitude. You can plan a symposium, you can plan to bring people from different perspectives, from different disciplines, across disciplines, trying to manage all the problems with the hybrid formats and the technical problems. And then the time has finally come, and we have survived. I'm quite surprised at the end. And I want to thank all of you. It has been amazing, and I hope you share this feeling with us, with the impression with us. So thanks for joining us in person or online. And I also want to thank again the FICLIT department and the RAM Association for their financial support, our outstanding keynote speakers, Professor Puzzolaro, Serena Mazzini, and Laura Cariola, all the authors, the chairpersons, the scientific committee, and the local organizing committee. So thanks, Rebecca, thanks, Georgia, and thanks, Andrea, for your precious help. Last but not least, I want to thank my partner in crime, Paola Vernillo. The IPAN conference would not be possible without your impressive work and total dedication. So thanks from the heart. And that's it. We hope to see you again, maybe in a second edition, bigger edition, maybe. I don't know. See you soon. Okay, from the online participant, we will disconnect now. We are going to disconnect now. So thanks for joining us, and bye.